It is 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, and the only light in the apartment is the cold blue glow of a spreadsheet. You stare at the numbers, the rent increase, the student loan balance, the average cost of a starter home in your city. In the next room, she is sleeping. But you are awake, carrying a silent weight that nobody talks about. Society tells you that if you are a man, your 30s earning six figures, you should be ready. You should have the ring, the down payment, and the master plan for the next 30 years. But you do not. Instead, you feel a quiet, persistent dread. Most people think modern men are refusing to marry because they want to prolong their youth or avoid commitment. They think it is about immaturity. But they are wrong. The truth is far more sobering. Men are not running away from commitment. They are looking at the math and realizing the game has been completely redesigned. Before we dive into the numbers and the psychology behind this shift, if this silent pressure sounds familiar, watch this video until the very end. The modern dating landscape cannot be understood in fragments. It requires looking at the raw, uncomfortable whole. Subscribe and join our community of men who are done apologizing for refusing to build on quicksand. Welcome back to Why We Fall. Let's look at David. David is 34 years old. He lives in Charlotte, North Carolina, and works as a structural engineer. He is good at what he does. He designs foundations, structures meant to withstand immense pressure. He earns $112,000 a year. On paper, David is doing everything right. 3 years ago, David met Sarah. Sarah is 31, a marketing manager with a bright smile and a sharp mind. In the beginning, their relationship was easy. They rented a quiet 2-bedroom apartment, filled it with mismatched used furniture, and spent their Sunday mornings drinking black coffee and listening to the rain. They talked about the future. They built dreams. But then, the quiet shift began. It started with small comments. A wedding invitation from Sarah's college roommate. A post on her social media feed showing a mutual friend's brand new suburban home. Soon the conversations changed. They were no longer about where they wanted to travel, but when they were going to take the next step. Sarah is 31. She feels the heavy ticking weight of her biological clock. In psychological terms, this is the onset of evolutionary urgency, a biological alarm that transforms a relationship from a romantic partnership into a race against time. For Sarah, marriage and children are not distant dreams anymore. They are urgent deadlines. David wants to marry Sarah. He loves her. But every time he looks at the foundation of their life, he feels the structure cracking. David carries $45,000 in student loan debt, a legacy of the education he needed to earn his six-figure salary. When they look for a house in Charlotte, they find that starter homes that cost $200,000 a decade ago are now selling for $450,000. David sits at the kitchen table, hearing the clinking of cereal bowls as Sarah prepares for work. The air is thick with unspoken expectations. Sarah wants a wedding, an event that now averages $30,000. She wants a home, which requires a $90,000 down payment to avoid crushing monthly mortgage payments. To Sarah, David's hesitation feels like a lack of love. She asks him why he is dragging his feet. She wonders if he is second-guessing their relationship. But David is not second-guessing his love for Sarah. He is looking at his balance sheet. He is trapped in the scarcity trap, the belief that if he commits to these terms right now, he is signing up for financial ruin. He realizes that if they buy the house and fund the wedding, he will have zero savings left. If he loses his job, if the economy shifts, he will be the one responsible for the collapse. The pressure is constant. It is the banging of pots in the kitchen at 7 a.m., the cold shoulder on Friday nights, the silent car rides home from dinner. David feels like he is walking on eggshells in his own home. He is a structural engineer who cannot see a stable way to build his own family. If you are a man standing in David's shoes, you need to understand something. Your hesitation is not a sign of weakness. Your anxiety is not a defect. It is a rational response to an economic reality that has shifted beneath your feet. You are not crazy. You are simply refusing to build a life on a foundation you know cannot hold the weight. I love him, but I cannot marry him until he is fully stable. Until we have our own house, his student loans are paid off, and our future is completely secure. On the surface, this sounds like common-sense financial planning. It sounds responsible, mature, and practical. But underneath, it reveals a massive cultural shift in how marriage is defined. It changes marriage from a partnership of growth into a high-stakes entry fee. This is what sociologists call the transition from cornerstone marriage to capstone marriage. 50 years ago, marriage was a cornerstone, a starting block. A young couple in their early 20s, with barely $1 to their name, stood before family and promised to build a life together. They bought cheap, mismatched furniture, shared small, drafty apartments, and struggled together. The struggle was the glue, the shared history that bound them. Today, marriage is a capstone, a trophy you place on top of a life that is already fully built. You must have the career, the home, the 5-year plan, and the financial stability before you are deemed worthy of the altar. This shift delays marriage by nearly a decade, pushing the average age to historic highs. It forces men into a state of permanent evaluation, where they must prove their net worth before they can prove their commitment. Recognize this shift. Ask yourself if you and your partner are trying to build a life together, or if you are expected to deliver a pre-packaged lifestyle as a prerequisite for her love. If you are the only one expected to fund the capstone, you are not a partner, you are a sponsor. My grandfather bought a house on a single factory salary and raised 3 kids. Why can't I do it with a 6-figure engineering degree? This is the frustrating reality of modern economic math. Men are working longer hours, earning higher nominal salaries, yet feeling poorer, more isolated, and less secure than their fathers ever did. This creates severe cognitive dissonance and a sense of identity demolition. Society's script hasn't changed. It still demands that a man be the financial provider, the rock, the protector. But the economic landscape has changed entirely. In 1970, the average American home cost roughly 3 times the average household income. Today, it is 7, 8, or even 10 times that income in major cities. Add to this the weight of student loan debt, an invisible tax that previous generations never had to carry. When a man is forced to choose between paying off his debt, saving for an overpriced down payment, or funding a lavish $30,000 wedding, he is caught in the scarcity trap. He knows that if he makes a mistake, the legal and financial consequences of divorce will wipe out everything he has built. He is not avoiding commitment out of fear of love. He is avoiding it out of a rational fear of ruin. Break down the financial math. Stop trying to meet 1970s expectations with modern economic rules. Draft a transparent spreadsheet of your debt, your housing reality, and the cost of marriage. Sit down and look at it together. Observe if your partner looks at the numbers with empathy and a desire to help, or with silent disappointment and resentment. I just feel like I need to be sure. What if there is someone out there who fits my timeline better, or someone who is already established? This is the frustrating quote that many men hear in today's dating market. The presence of infinite digital choices creates a permanent state of relationship instability. Neither partner can fully invest because they are constantly evaluating the opportunity cost of their current choice. This is driven by the paradox of choice and comparison anxiety. In the past, marriage decisions were made within local communities, church groups, neighborhoods, offices. Your choice was limited, which meant once you committed, you focused on making it work. Today, dating apps present an illusion of an infinite buffet of options. This creates a state of perpetual evaluation. The moment a relationship hits a natural plateau or a difficult phase, the temptation to scroll for a better option is only a swipe away. For men, this means their commitment is often met with conditional acceptance. They are constantly being weighed against an idealized, non-existent digital alternative. This destroys frame control, the ability to build a shared reality based on mutual trust, replacing it with a hyper-vigilant state of competition. Turn off the noise. Establish clear boundaries around social media usage and dating app history. A commitment built on the constant threat of replacement is not a foundation. It is a prison. If you have ever felt the pressure of a timeline that didn't match your financial reality, drop "timeline" in the comments right now. Let's see how many of us are carrying this silent load. If you find yourself in David's position, carrying the weight of modern economic expectations, while trying to build a genuine relationship, you need a strategy. You cannot solve a structural, societal problem with emotional compromises or wishful thinking. Here is your tactical blueprint. First, the financial alignment audit. You must strip away the romance for a moment and look at the logistics. Sit down with your partner and lay out the raw numbers. Show her the student loans. Show her the rising interest rates. Show her the real cost of a down payment in today's housing market. Do not apologize for these numbers. They are not your personal failure. They are the economic reality of your generation. Too many men hide their financial stress because they feel ashamed, treating their debt or savings as a dark secret. This is a trap. You must lay your cards on the table. A partner who is ready to build a cornerstone marriage will look at this balance sheet and say, "How do we tackle this together?" A partner who is looking for a capstone trophy will look at it and see an obstacle to her timeline. Pay close attention to her reaction. The financial audit is not just about math. It is a diagnostic test for the character of your relationship. Second, the timeline decompression. Modern relationships are often rushed, not by love, but by external panic. Social media comparison and biological clocks create a high-pressure environment where decisions must be made yesterday. You need to decompress this timeline. Understand that the pressure your partner feels is real. The evolutionary urgency of the biological clock is a powerful driver, and you should not dismiss it. But you must also explain that rushing into a mortgage you cannot afford, or a marriage built on financial panic, will create a toxic environment for your future. Decompressing the timeline means shifting the focus from "when do we get married" to "how do we build the stability required for a family." If she insists on a fast-track timeline, ask if she is willing to compromise on the wedding size, the starter home location, or the division of financial labor. If the timeline is rigid, but the lifestyle expectations are completely non-negotiable, you are being asked to fund a fantasy at the expense of your sanity. Third, boundary frame establishment. You must establish and maintain your frame. Your frame is the boundary of what is healthy, possible, and sustainable for you. Do not sign a legal contract or take on crushing debt just to quiet the noise in your kitchen. If you borrow against your future to buy peace in the present, you will end up with neither. When you allow a partner's anxiety or social comparison to dictate your financial decisions, you have surrendered your frame. You are now living in her reality, a reality driven by external expectations. Remember, the man who surrenders his frame to keep the peace always ends up losing both the peace and the relationship. Stay firm. If she threatens to walk away because you will not overextend yourself financially, let her walk. It is better to build a solitary life on solid ground than a joint life on a cliff edge. Ask yourself this difficult question. If you lost your current income tomorrow and had to rent a small studio apartment, would your partner stay to rebuild with you from scratch, or would her timeline for you suddenly expire? If the answer makes you hesitate, you are building on sand. It is easy to look at the numbers, the housing market, and the dating apps, and feel a deep sense of despair. It is easy to feel like the world is demanding something of you that is impossible to give. The culture will tell you that you are falling behind. It will show you pictures of weddings, houses, and happy families, and tell you that if you do not have these things by a certain age, you have failed. Do not listen to the noise. The world has changed. The economy of 1970 is gone, and the relationship rules of that era cannot survive in today's environment. You are adapting. You are analyzing. You are protecting your future. That is what a mature, grounded man does. You are not falling behind. You are choosing your own path. If you are facing the end of a relationship because you stood your ground and refused to compromise your stability, remember this. You might lose a partner who has a rigid timeline, but you must remember, you lost a relationship, not your worth. You chose to protect your sanity, your future, and your frame. That is not weakness. That is the ultimate form of strength. You are choosing to wake up. You are choosing to live in reality, even when that reality is heavy. For the final question today, have you ever delayed marriage or commitment because you felt you weren't financially ready yet? Drop timeline in the comments and share your story. Let's talk about how the landscape has changed for you. Subscribe to Why We Fall and join a growing community of men who are done sleepwalking through their own lives. We'll see you in the next one, brother.